Welcome back to the 6th Gear Garage. Today, I'm going to pull this decent cab off of this rusty frame. This is an Ohio truck, so of course, the floor was rusted through on both the driver and passenger side, as well as the inside of the rocker panel and the area that supports the body mount. I repaired the floors, body mounts, and rocker panel in separate videos that I'll link to in the description to help keep this video short. Once the cab is removed, I can stand it up to take a look at the underside and clean up and seal all of these welds. Once the floors, rockers, and body mount supports were solid again, I moved on to the engine bay. The radiator has to be drained and removed. I like to remove as much as I can from the engine bay to make the front end less heavy. I also have to disconnect all wiring, vacuum lines, cables, and linkages. I'm removing the engine because I have to go through it and replace some parts and gaskets and paint it. Even if I didn't need to do any of those things, I'd still remove it for the extra working room because all I have left to do to remove it is unbolt it from the transmission and unbolt the two motor mounts. Now I can disconnect the steering. And I'm removing everything I can from the engine bay to reduce the weight on the front end, which will make it easier to lift the cab, but also because I plan on painting the engine bay while the engine is out. Regardless if I'm painting the bay or not, I still need to disconnect the brake lines and fuel lines from the chassis. And there are a couple more things that connect the cab to the chassis. One is the parking brake cable. And the other is the speedometer cable. Next, I prepped, primed, and painted the engine bay. I have a full video on how I did this that I'll link in the description. While everything is removed, it is the perfect time to apply some fresh paint, or at least give the engine bay a good cleaning if the original paint is still in good condition. Now I need to remove all of the bolts that hold the body to the frame. And there's 6 on this truck. I've got one up here in this corner, right there. And this one in this corner, I already took out when I replaced this front support. And then inside we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. These were originally a 14 millimeter. However, thanks to Ohio road salt, these are about now a 13.5 millimeter. Next, I remove the doors, which takes a good amount of weight off the cab. And removed the shifter from the floor. Looking under the cab, there are metal fuel lines that I want to stay with the chassis, so I unbolted those from the cab. This is the transmission tunnel from the floor of a 5-speed cab. I used it to make a template because this blue cab is from a truck with an automatic transmission. I have everything to convert this truck to a 5-speed, so now would be a good time to modify the transmission tunnel. And you can see that I need a round hole a few inches forward for the manual transmission, but it will still be overlapping the square hole from the auto shifter. So first I made a cardboard template of the square hole and transferred it to a scrap piece of sheet metal. Then cleaned up all the old paint from the edges and welded it in place. Then ground the weld smooth to be flush with the rest of the floor. Now with the square hole gone, I traced the template for the round hole and found the center point. I didn't have a large enough hole saw to cut a clean round hole, so I screwed a slightly smaller hole saw on the center of the circle to use it as a template. And it was the perfect guide to cut a round hole with the Bever plasma cutter. Then I cleaned up the edges of the cut with an angle die grinder. And the rest of the new surface with the wire wheel. And hit it with some degreaser, followed by some self-etching primer. So now that I have that done, everything is all disconnected underneath, all disconnected in the engine bay, all cleaned out. It's time to use Mikey's homemade hoist here and lift off the cab. And we'll see how this goes because I've got a lot more weight in front than I do behind. So it's probably gonna kind of nose down like this as I lift it. Nice and slow. So I've got some jack stands. Throw some cardboard over those just so I don't scratch up any of the paint. Whoa, all right, we are way higher on the driver's side than the passenger side. I'm gonna go back down for a second and make sure that this hook is centered exactly in the middle. It's a little bit too far my way right now. Ooh. Oh my gosh, it's so violent. I just want to make sure I'm not smashing the inside of this beautiful engine bay on the steering box here. Okay, and here's how it's looking. Completely off of the frame, just enough to get this front support on the raised jack stands. Although I'm not going to be able to roll it out because this tire is going to hit the cab. So I removed the dollies from under the front wheels to lower it a few more inches. And I'm still a little bit too low right here to roll under this cab corner here. So I gotta go up a little bit higher. Okay, the jack stands are wanting to fall inward now because I'm lifting up higher. All right, plan B. I'll have to steer around it. Now, if I didn't care about the longevity of this cab, I would just roll this out and roll the new one right up under it. However, I did a lot of floor repairs on this cab and I never actually cleaned up the welds from the underside. So if you look at that, I'm starting to get some surface rust along the edges of all my welds. So the plan now is to stand this cab up on the back wall here, and once it's standing up on the back wall, I'll be able to access all the welds on the inner side of this cab and clean those up. So now I need to set this back down and lift it up from the front like this. So maybe this wasn't the best idea. I can bend it back. It's just gonna be one more thing I have to do. Both sides. Okay, the plan now is to lift this up, and I have a dolly with wheels that'll be this right size, but I've got it under the extra bed for this truck over there. So I've just got some pieces of wood to lay on the floor, and I've got a moving blanket that I'll throw down to give it a little bit of padding. So that worked out perfect. I could open the door and close it and not interfere with the front of the cab there. And now I can get a good look at the underside of the cab. And you can see all my floor repairs. We got this corner here, this whole section here, a little bit down here, and a huge piece right here. And if you look really close, all these welds have a little bit of surface rust. So I'll be cleaning up, priming, painting, and undercoating all this in the next video. Thanks for watching.